Hey guys.
Hi. So I'll introduce myself and then Emma. So we're Heckrodt Ball and Reserve. I'm Andrew Bubrauer. I'm one of the volunteer coordinator. My title is also naturalist and early childhood specialist. So I kind of wear three hats here at Heckrodt. And this is my lovely coworker Emma, and she's.
Hi guys. I'm Emma Newman. I'm the Natural Resource Associate here at Heckrodt. In basic, I wear a lot of different hats, but in short, it's kind of habitat management. So working with our good native plants and try to get rid of as many of the bad invasive plants as possible.
So we're just going to go basically through how we use volunteers at Heckrodt. It's a little different now with COVID, and we'll talk about that at the end. But I just made this PowerPoint of how we used volunteers basically pre-COVID and how we hope to in the future, eventually when we start volunteering. Currently, the Nature Center is closed, so we're not accepting volunteers inside the Nature Center, but we do have volunteering outside the Nature Center and sometimes take-home things. We're working on a seed sorting thing, which we'll explain a little later. So, all right, so volunteering at Heckrodt, a little bit about Heckrodt. I don't think this is working. All right. So Heckrodt's mission really is to enhance, restore, and preserve the reserve and educate all people in the importance of conserving our natural resources while promoting the reserve's many recreational opportunities. So everything we do here at Heckrodt is mission-based. So like our volunteer needs, our education, and all sorts of stuff. So that's just kind of one of the things I wanted to start out with. So in 2019, Heckrodt had 71 consistent individual volunteers. So those are the volunteers that we use daily, basically, from day-to-day basis. We call them our lovely tried and trues. We'll go over what that means. We had 333 event volunteers. So Heckrodt has large events. Again, we'll go through that. And 596 group volunteers. So that's your large group. That could be corporate, that could be family members, it could be scout groups, high school groups, all sorts of stuff. So in 2019, we had 4,221 volunteer hours. It's totally a Monday. So served. So we do rely on our volunteers for a lot of things. So I went with the 2019 statistics because really that's what we want to focus on versus 2020 where it's like, eh. So if you guys have any questions as I'm talking, please let us know. So going back to how we break down our volunteers. So the individual volunteers, what we really use them for, we have a volunteer naturalist program. A lot of our volunteers are retired for this, are retired teachers, librarians. They worked in the environmental ed field, the naturalist program. So all sorts of different volunteers. For that, if the volunteer naturalist program, volunteers go through like a big training. So they start by observing us naturalists as we're teaching educational programs. And usually you start out basically in back of the group because, you know, the kids are 30-some long pre-COVID. So you're doing what you're comfortable with and helping us with crowd control, passing out materials, you know, bringing that pelt through the group. So that's something that you're interested in. We really could use, some more of those. We do have program prep volunteers. So those are the ones that are assembling things that we use throughout our programs. It could be cutting, it could be cutting things for us, assembling things for like a Christmas gift workshop, just things, some of the stuff can actually be taken home. We also have a program called the Nature Center Sitters. So basically, the Heckrodt staff, the education staff on weekends teaches like Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts, or they're outside doing things. We always need somebody to watch the Nature Center when it's open. So you're sitting in the Nature Center, making sure people are following rules and just greeting people and answering simple questions. If they don't have an answer, you're writing things down in phone numbers so we can get back to them. So that's very simple to do. You can bring a book in case it's slow, or homework if you're a kid, knitting, whatever. So very simple, fun task. Snowshoe rentals is something that obviously we need seasonally. And it's just helping people put on snowshoes and taking money and renting them. So that's kind of like our indoor tasks, I guess. But we also have outdoor tasks. And a lot of them, I'm gonna talk about those.
Oh, okay. So, all right, guys, so I'm going to talk a little bit more about what are some of the different needs that we use outside. And this is, you know, a lot of it ends up being year-round. A lot of it is geared towards the spring, summer, and even in the fall some. And right at the top there is the weeding and gardening. We have a large number of kind of landscape gardens with our different native species that are in them. But even though it's kind of more that wild look, there's still quite a bit of weeds that come up in there. And helping get some of that out is a big task in itself. Seed sorting, each year we kind of, we collect seed from our native prairie that we have. And each year those seed heads that we kind of snip off the top of the plant then need to be kind of broke down and the actual seed separated kind of from what we like to call the fluff or the rest of the top of the seed head. That's a good test that we're finding is still working during COVID-19. We can do, you know, kind of a touch-free drop-off where, you know, we kind of hand off the seeds to you guys, give you a little simple instruction, and you guys bring that home, break that seed up, and then bring back the seed for us to kind of spread throughout the reserve to kind of help continue that diversity here that we have.
Can I interrupt briefly?
Absolutely.
Because the seeds is something that I know I've participated in at Heckrodt. Can you just talk about the impact that actually does for you? Because I know there's a huge cost if you were to buy the seeds instead of go through this process.
Crazy. Yeah, it's so I kind of started this a few years back when I started looking at, you know, getting seeding these areas, and I started Googling, finding some local seed sources, and I started realizing how expensive that seed was. And when I thought I could do this large area and get that seeded the next spring, I was able to buy about, you know, this much seed, and it was about 1/10 of the area I needed for the amount of funding we had for that. So I started to realize how important that was right away. And so we started collecting what we had here. We do have a small planted prairie that was planted in kind of the early 2000s, and it's doing relatively well, and it has a decent amount of diversity. So we thought, you know, we definitely want to leave some of the seeds for the birds and the wildlife, that sort of a thing. But we found out that, you know, even if we take the seed, all we're doing is breaking up and giving it a better chance to hit that soil surface and germinate and start to grow into a new plant. So it's absolutely huge. I know just last year it was in the hundreds and hundreds of dollars that we saved just by kind of reusing that seed on our prairie. We've had volunteers help us collect seed in the past, and then this last February, right before kind of COVID hit, we were able to actually host a seed sorting party, which was really cool. We kind of got to bring a whole bunch of volunteers together and do it right here at the Nature Center, which we hope to do again someday. But it was just such a great event. And then finally to get that seed back out on the property and growing into more native plants is just, it's truly is priceless. So it's a great thing. So.
Thank you.
And then kind of going on the opposite end of the spectrum is, you know, as fun as it is to get native plants in the ground and started to growing things like that, it's just as important to get the invasive species out. And the invasive species in basic, you know, are the bad plants that we don't want growing here that come from, you know, Europe, Asia, you know, other continents where they maybe have control mechanisms there, but here they just grow like wildfire and kind of outcompete those native species that we're trying so hard to get growing. So removing those, that is something that there will never be an ending amount of. I know when we're kind of getting a group in hand, we're always talking about what are we going to do with this group, you know, depending on the size, the age group that they kind of range in. And I'm always there with, well, we have buckthorn there's always buckthorn to cut and get out of there. So it's a great volunteer task, and that's something that can be done depending on the species of an invasive species. It can be done year-round and with any age group of people. So it's really great.
We'll go through the large group stuff in our PowerPoint as well. So.
Yep. So, and then kind of the last thing on this list is our different construction needs. We have it's a total of almost a mile of boardwalk on the reserve in different segments that has been rebuilt about 4 years ago. That was done with 1 staff member and 3 main volunteers that you can see kind of on the bottom right of the screen there.
We love them.
And that's something that
we need more of.
definitely need more of. These guys they're skilled in many different ways, maybe not even necessarily construction, but they've got that willingness to know, and they're hard workers. Sometimes they're outrunning us, and I have a hard time keeping up to them, which it's good to have that around. So there's always endless needs when it comes to that. And I mean, the list can kind of go on and on and on.
All right, so our next slide. So we do have large events here at Heckrodt, and you do not have to pick one area, so you can be in construction volunteer, but also work at events or naturalist volunteer. So it's very broad, actually. So our events, we have 3 main huge events. One in August called the Prairie Hoot Nanny, and volunteers will assist with horse-drawn carriage rides, hands-on stations, food service, registration. So basically, you can come and volunteer for the event, and then you get like a little orientation about your specific task, and then it's actually quite a bit of fun. So these are all really fun. So in October we have creepy crawlies, very similar tasks for each one, except for we do have people dress up for the haunted trail. A lot of high school kids do that, which is really fun for them. And we have a Christmas gift workshop in December. Volunteers assist with helping with simple crafts that the kids come to do, make their own crafts, and then gift wrapping, and then registration. So it's very fun event. People love doing our events. We do have smaller events on other months. So we do need like 1 or 2 volunteers for this event and this. So there's at least 1 event each month. The Hoot Nanny, we use about 50 volunteers. Creepy crawlies, I think there's over 100 volunteers with the haunted trail. And then the Christmas gift workshop is more like 50 some volunteers. So definitely a good chunk with those 3. And it's things I look forward to and kind of miss greatly because we haven't been able to do these larger groups, but we will get back to it eventually. We do have volunteer events. So we have those public events. These are kind of like just for our volunteers. So we do the craft prep party. So before COVID, we did a lot of going into, as educators, going into schools, and we'd have crafts to do with the kids. So the craft prep party was to prep those crafts, you know, cutting out stuff for the kids to paint. So we created this party, and people came in the morning, and we had little instructions on each table, and they would help cut out things, sort things, assemble things. Basically, it was right before a Christmas gift workshop, so they'd help us prep all those crafts the kids would do. And it was a lot of coffee drinking and treats and laughter. We laughed a lot. It's something that I actually greatly miss. That's usually in November. And then we decided, hey, let's do a seed sorting party, kind of like our craft prep party. And so that was a huge seed sorting party as well. And again, it was a lot of fun. And we actually get a lot of work done for both those. And
They're kind of the volunteer event parties are kind of great in a lot of different ways. It gives the staff a chance to, you know, even sit down and talk to some of these volunteers where, you know, sometimes we're so go that we don't get a chance to get to know these people really. And they, you know, they're really great people to be around. So it's great for that. It's great for the volunteers to, you know, experience us in a different capacity as well, a little bit more relaxed, enjoying some coffee, donuts, that sort of a thing. And in both of these scenarios, the amount of work that they get done within and amongst all of that enjoyment is insane. The amount of, you know, like she said, the craft prep thing, and then with the seeds, I had gotten, I bet you half to almost 3/4 of the collected seeds sorted in that one day, where that would take me
days, months,
weeks of seed sorting and very, very sore fingers by the end of it. So, I mean, it's just such a cool, they're really cool events to do.
So those things we're looking for
in the future.
Post-COVID. We're not giving up. So we do have large group tasks. I know the bus has come, and I will let you explain.
Yeah, definitely. So a lot of these large group volunteer tasks end up being outside. One, it's basically, we have the space for it.
We do not have much space for large groups inside, and some of the times when the groups come, we are teaching kid groups that need spaces, so we have to kind of work together.
Yep, definitely. So a lot of times what we end up doing is we end up doing either a lot of habitat work, which in turn is invasive species removal, planting of different native plants, and then on the kind of the maintenance side of things, that's where you get your trail maintenance, your graveling, wood chipping, things like that. The fall and spring prep where we're taking down the old gardens, raking them out, kind of getting things kind of spruced up, looking a little bit nicer in both fall and spring, that sort of a thing. And a lot of times we have a lot of youth church camp groups come in, and these kids they're ready to work. You'll get a group of maybe 20, 25 of them. And we'll have, I think we're up to 10 wheelbarrows now. So, I mean, these kids have trucked gravel a quarter mile into, through our wetland on our gravel trails to resurface those trails and that sort of a thing. We get a lot of corporate team building groups that it's either a team building day that they want to have as a group, or even just let's get out in the community and make an impact type of a thing. And those groups are really awesome too, because they're getting out of their normal day-to-day jobs and they're really getting out there and doing something out of the normal, and they're about as gung-ho as the kids are, which is really great. And then there's a mixture of all sorts of groups in between there. We get Boy Scout, Girl Scout groups, picking up trash, on weekends, things like that, kind of on your own, a little bit more type of a experience, and that sort of a thing. So, and endless opportunities for sure.
And tasks are assigned based on the current needs. So if there's no planting, you can't do planting. So I know a lot of people are like, we like to plant trees. Oh.
Yeah,
So,
it's definitely a very seasonal type of a thing, and that's kind of the hard part. If you're into one thing, we'll definitely, we do have those volunteers that we have. One guy that we call every year for creepy crawlies. He has his specific jobs that he does, and that's what he does for the year, and that's wonderful. We love those people as well.
We really base it on a lot of our volunteering on your interests and your specialties and what you're comfortable with.
Really trying to match that up with what we need here at the reserve, and how can we make the two things work out for a win-win for everybody.
Okay, next slide. So in this summers, we have the Heckrodt Conservation Crew, and it's really kind of developed over the last couple of years. It is a 3-week summer volunteer camp for those high school kids. I know Menasha and a lot of those schools rely on volunteer hours in order to graduate. So we created this. They come for 3 weeks straight. They're high school kids going into 9th grade, so 8th into 9th. Until their 12th grade. So we focus on the invasive species, trail maintenance, planting, citizen science, weeding, and then even program prep. So they literally do a lot of things around that 3 weeks. They become kind of a staple of the reserve. And it's really great for the high school service hours, as well as building up the resumes. I've actually wrote a lot of college reference letters, scholarship reference letters, even like job references. So it really helps those kids kind of give back to the community, but also get what they need for school. So, and some of these kids are amazing. Like, well, all of them are, but it's really been fun for me to watch them grow up into adulthood and seeing them come back. And I miss you, Miss Andrea. So it's a really fun program. So I love it. And we were able to do that this summer, actually, because we're able to social distance under 8 kids, and stayed outside the whole time, that kind of thing. So this is one of the things that we've really focused on doing. So when you volunteer at Heckrodt, and I send out monthly e-newsletters. If you don't do email, we also send out physical letters too, if you like it, or phone calls. with the volunteer opportunities for that month listed. So you know what events are coming up, how many we need, the different tasks, all sorts of things. We do a yearly volunteer appreciation party, which is a lot of fun. And then there's a volunteer plaque with your volunteer hour milestones on it. And volunteering at Heckrodt, you join like a really huge family. So we call them our volunteer family. It is a lot of fun, and even our volunteers have become family within each other.
Sure.
For sure. So yeah, Heckrod's volunteering is fun, I guess. It totally is. So you can volunteer at Heckrodt. You can do it with a group of friends, your coworkers, individually, or with families. So we take all sorts of different age groups. I mean, one of these photos, she's even wearing a baby carrier while raking. And I bought these little kid rakes, so it was fun. The little kid loved it. So yeah, we're very family oriented here. Yeah, please volunteer. So how to volunteer at Heckrodt? So we do have an application. It's on our website. You can download it. You can fill it out, mail it, scan it in email, or drop it off. If you're dropping it off during COVID, just let us know. We'll come and meet you at the front door. Because, you know, we're closed. But we're here. We do require a background check because we do work with a lot of kids, especially our naturalist educators. So we require that. So once you pass that background check, you can kind of join the group. You will get on an email list, and I'll send out that email. We do a short volunteer orientation with your first volunteer experience. I've learned that if I do an orientation, sometimes I never see them back again. So when you're committed, you'll get an orientation. And training really depends on your interest. So if you're interested in the naturalist educator volunteer, you'll get trained on that construction. That way you're not, because we have a broad range of things. So you'll be trained. If you're volunteering for a specific event, you'll get trained the day of the event. It's very simple tasks like parking and stuff. So it really depends on what you're signing up for. Let's see. During COVID. So currently, unfortunately, since the numbers are super high right now with COVID, the Nature Center is still closed. Group volunteering is currently on hold, but individually volunteering can be done at home or outside only. So we're not allowing volunteers inside the Nature Center. We leave just the staff that can come in at this time. So it's very limited with the tasks that we accept. But if you're interested in the seed sorting and maybe weeding or invasive species, this is definitely still happening, and we're accepting volunteers. And if you're interested in doing kind of everything else, we will gladly take an application and put you on the list. I have a stack of volunteer applications that I'm kind of like waiting post-COVID, whatever long it takes. Hopefully, I don't know. So my contact info, I guess I'm the first person you contact because I do all the background checks. As we get you in your proper like interests, then you may be contact with like construction's contact with Kelsey or site manager, or if you're invasives, you contact Emma. So, but I'm the first person you contact. So there's my name and my email, and our phone number and our website is up there. So that's basically how you would start.
That's, I think, about it.
It really is about it.
Does anybody have any questions?
If anybody is like me and they have a question that they think of as soon as it's all over, and it's like, oh, I should have asked that, would you guys just email, phone, which is best for you?
Email, because most of the time we're out. Since the Nature Center is not open, we don't have to stay in our office, so we're outside. So email, because we can email well outside.
Yep, definitely.
Definitely.
And Andrea, with Andrew's email kind of being up here, Andrea is a great place to start, but if it's anything, kind of not in her wheelhouse, she's more than happy to kind of get that out to whoever needs to get their correct answer in there for her.
And there's a question that says, do you sign off on volunteer hours for high school students? Yes, I do the whole get involved. I sign the letters that Monash is now not doing get involved or doing paper, so I sign letters, whatever they require now. So yes, they do. I'm in charge of that and it will continue. So.
Is there an age, do you have like I know you said you're very family friendly, you take all ages. Is there an age that someone needs to be out there volunteering individually without a parent or a guardian?
Oh yeah, good question. So it is really hard to do kid, and we do family groups. We can find family things. 10 is a good age limit for doing a lot of the tasks, especially events, because that's when their attention span can handle it. Up to 14, they are required guardian supervision, thank you. And then once they hit that high school, then they can volunteer on their own, if that makes any sense. So like that high school service camp, that's when they can start volunteering on their own. Obviously they have to have parent permission and there's forms and stuff, but.
Great. Well, we're just about out of time and getting ready for our next group. Heckrodt, thank you so very much. Those of you that are watching live, if you have any further questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to the wonderful folks at Heckrodt to get plugged in and volunteer. It is an amazing place, and I know that you will love your volunteer experience there. But on behalf of Volunteer Fox Cities, thank you for being here, Heckrodt. For those watching, thank you for watching. Make sure you check out our one-stop shop and our schedule at volunteerfoxcities.org to see who's coming up for the rest of the week. To see more information about Heckrodt, and links to their website as well as the other participating agencies.